Ooh, this is a good graphic. You might like it.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pwnery's Week in Review. I probably made a hash of the intro because, well, I forgot to tell everybody I was getting ready to hit the button. So anyway, this is our weekly show from 10 a.m. to noon, where we will discuss the news of the week. And boy, was it a shitty week for America. Geopolitically, militarily, you name it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started since we have a lot to cover today. We actually have 7 stories for you today instead of just the 5. And I do get to start with the local. But before we do that, let's go ahead and go around the room and introduce my panelists. So far today, I have Scott and I have Tony. Say hello, everybody.
Howdy.
Morning.
Okay, so before we get into our personal weeks in review, what I thought I would do is remind the audience that there is a show coming back.
Did you go live?
No, Teddy, I didn't go live. Of course I'm live.
Oh, go ahead.
Anyway, um, there's a show coming back next week. You want to tell them about it, Tony?
As far as I know, we're supposed to start back Wednesday morning with the Overwatch, so fingers crossed it'll happen.
And explain to the good people what the early watch is all about, because some of them may have just fell off a turnip truck.
Good God, it's just a couple of guys shooting shit trying to piss people off.
In every conceivable way, or is it pretty specific?
Well, we kind of favor QA and freedom of speech stuff, but we don't give a fuck what we gotta do to piss people off.
All right, that's good enough for me. So yeah, guys, early watch took a little bit of a break, but it will be back probably Wednesday. You'll get the notification like everyone else does on YouTube. That is if you're subscribed or you hit the little bell icon and get the notifications, which I would encourage you to do because YouTube keeps dropping people's subscriptions as usual. So anyway, I guess since we've got a lot to get into, you guys are gonna notice a theme this week, and it's only because, well, we're being led by idiots, aren't we? So before we start with all the doom, gloom, and heaviness, um, let's start with personal weeks in review. Now I know for y'all it's probably gonna be a bit short, but like don't leave out the details because like Tony's week in review is pretty interesting, and plus there's a test result we're still waiting for, right?
Yep,
Didn't get it back yesterday.
not
Well,
not as of bedtime last night we hadn't. I don't know about the day, I hadn't asked.
well, tell the good people about your week in review and the ever-changing, ever-growing, and ever-repaired lawnmower saga.
Well, I finally got the goddamn lawnmower done, so I can mow the yard if it ever cools off. 'Cause it's been fucking hotter than the hubs of hell here.
Mm.
Uh, old lady had to go get tested for COVID. She works in a hospital, and her test came back negative. Then 3 days later, she started showing symptoms of COVID, so she had to go get tested again. Now we're waiting on the test results of that. On the plus side, I don't feel any. Oh yeah, by the way, we both got vaccinated. So
Mm. That's how
if
well
she
that
has,
vaccine works.
if she has it, you can bet your ass I'm gonna run with that,
Yep.
unless I die. Yeah.
Well, no, because your checkup turned out pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah.
You gotta tell the folks about what that was about.
Well, it's the infraction rate of my heart, which was 14%, and they did some work on my pacemaker, and now it's 40%. Right. So I want to get retested because I believe it's a mistake. I don't feel better.
40 is greater than 14, though.
Yes, it is.
All right. So, Scott, I think what happened with you actually started at the end of last week's show, like about the Golden Tiger stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Share your tale with the good people.
Well, my local was an importer of Golden Tiger, and he sold through over 300,000 rounds of 7.6239 in like 2.5 days.
10 pallets.
I managed to snag a couple. Well, it was about eight pallets or something like that.
Mm.
He just got 2 more pallets, but not for the price that it was before.
Right.
So Scott
They
scored
owed him
8 pallets.
No, I wish. Fuck, I'd be a rich man. I'd be waiting 3 months, and then I'd be putting that shit on Gunbroker.
When I heard about the new round of sanctions last week, the first thing I did was I PM'd Scott and I said, you need to beg, borrow, steal, and take as much money as you've got and go buy as much of that Golden Tiger as you can get your hands on, because you can literally turn a $10,000 investment into $4 million on Gunbroker in like 6 weeks. Realistically, that's obviously not true, but I mean, it was funny anyway.
You could double or triple your money easily
Yeah.
at these prices.
Well, okay,
Because
so
the last out you got went out for $3.99 a case.
okay, so I mean, like the way I figured is the problem is there's, if you guys didn't know, last Friday I think it was, Biden levied new sanctions against Russia under the guise of, we're doing this because you poisoned your political opposition. So we're not going to let you sell your guns or your ammunition and import them into our country. It's like, they don't care. The Russians don't care. Like, okay, fine, we'll just sell it to the Afghans then. Like, they don't give a crap, right? So the only
Well,
person who really lost in
everybody
that is
knows.
us.
Well, everybody knows that this had nothing to do about that. This
Well,
was about
yeah.
Joe Biden more than likely being a prick about the fact that David Chapman is more than likely not going to become head of the ATF.
Oh, he's already gone.
And this was done in retaliation for it.
Yeah, he's already gone, though. That's the good news. So, big victory there. Chipman's gone.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, last week. They very quietly took him off the list. I mean, by the time a 4th scandal came up, it was over.
Yeah.
Like, his own party was like, we're not backing this guy anymore. We can't save him. So anyway, I got this theory that Russian ammo's been effectively banned on September 7th. So you have between now and the 6th to try to get as much of it as you can. However, the market is already well aware of what's coming, so prices are already starting to rise. As of last week, the day after it was announced, you could still buy a case of Barnall for $2.99. So AmmoSeek literally broke down hours after the announcement because everyone was hitting it up looking for it. The same thing happened with the 22 shortage. The same thing happened for me personally with like gunpowder and primers, because they do have listings on AmmoSeek for that too. And what you've got is the president has literally created an artificial inflation again that he will not benefit from. So why did he do it? Because now that you have all the cheap Russian ammo off the table, everybody has to turn around and buy domestic or PPU or maybe ZQI if they still sell it here. You know, like there are tons of alternatives for Comblock ammo. But the problem is now that all the cheap ammo has been wiped off the table, everyone's going to start going to the next cheapest thing, which is going to wipe out that inventory and then, you know, progressively work their way up until only the expensive stuff is left. And in that void of, well, we sold out all of our PPU, it's going to be another 3 months before that container ship gets here with the next, 1,000 pallets. And when they do get it back, they're going to say, well, we've got it, and look what Federal's selling for. So we're going to sell it at this price now. And then Federal's going to be like, hey, well, if the cheap shit is this price, then we're going to double ours too. And this is how you get runaway ammo inflation.
Biden's America first.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It was explained to me by my FFL, who is an importer.
Mm-hmm.
you have to file a Form 6. Now, that Form 6 is good for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
or a certain amount of ammo, whatever you put. Say you want to import 1 million rounds
Sure.
on that one form. That's good for 2 years. So everybody's panicking, but at the same time, they probably shouldn't be, because there's been massive orders for ammo placed because of the whole COVID
Mm-hmm.
and the lack of ammunition for the last 2 years. So there's been massive orders placed. So any new Form 6 won't be processed after
Correct.
the 7th.
Correct. Yeah.
But
If you
they
have a
can't do
current,
anything about the ones that have already been issued.
right, they're just not going to
So
renew.
those guys are, they're not going to renew.
But that's the thing.
So
If you have an order in and your license is still good, this last batch, I think, is still okay. But they can't reorder because they won't allow anything else. But then again, I mean, this is...
under that Form 6, if you say you've got 1 million rounds,
Sure.
say you've only imported 200,000 rounds,
Right.
that means you could still, under that same Form 6, even a year and a half from now, bring
Call in the
that
other 800,000.
800,000 rounds.
See, I don't think that's going to work. I think what's going to end up happening is the government's going to put the kibosh on that. They're going to say, no, flat out, no, too bad.
You'll see
And then,
lawsuits.
right, and what's going to happen is anyone who paid that order ahead of time, the host country, Russia, would say, sorry, you already paid for it. We had a deal, but no refunds because your government is fucking stupid. So too bad, take it up with your government. And then all the people who imported the ammo, who are now missing, like in your example, 80% of their total order, they have to sue the federal government under the guidelines of, you forced me to breach my contract and I lost $3 million. You owe me. And then that will sit in litigation for the next 10 years. Because nobody's going to touch it. Which means they're going to lose their ass. And a lot of importers are going to go out of business. Which furthers the president's anti-gun agenda, doesn't it? Like, everyone said this is a backhanded form of gun control. Well, I just gave you a whole new facet of how that just got a whole lot worse, didn't I? You thought it was just ammo and Russian guns. No. It's going to put importers out of business that only import solely from Russia. All those guys are going to just disappear. It's like when they tried to ban the bump stocks. They took out slide fire systems completely off the map overnight with the stroke of a pen. Think of all the people who are manufacturers of that. Think of all the designers. Think of all the marketing guys, all the advertisers, all the photographers, all the web designers, all the fucking logistics guys who had to deliver this to all the distributors. All those people under slide fighter systems out of work by the stroke of a pen. An importer is a drop in the bucket to a Biden administration. They don't care. They were just like, too bad. Take it up with somebody else. And then they're like, fine, I'll sue you. And they're like, good luck with that. That's how they get away with this. I mean, they literally get away with this. Red Army Standard is still made in the Ukraine, according to HVS.
No, Red Army Standard is anything Century Arms can buy and label as Red Army Standard.
Is it theirs?
I have personally seen.
Huh. So, one thing you may notice if you have... Your audio changed, by the way. So one thing that may have skipped people's attention is if you go to Academy, their in-house brand is called Monarch. And you're going to start noticing a lot of Monarch ammo disappear. Because what they're doing is the same thing that Scott's describing. They import from other manufacturers. So next time you go to, like, say, Academy, and you walk up and you find Monarch 9mm Makarov on the shelf, grab it and look at the bottom right corner on the back of the box. And what it'll say is that it was imported via PPU in Serbia. So some of it comes from Serbia, some of it comes from Turkey, some of it comes from Russia. I've gotten some 9 Mac that actually had Barnaul stamps on it. And I thought, oh, okay, so some of it comes out of Russia, I guess. But yeah, you're going to see selective calibers even from your in-house brands disappear because now they can't import that either.
You know, I've been telling people for years now that smart money is on reloading.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you and I are in the same boat on that. You know, when you when you buy your ammo, the way I got into it was like, I know Tony, you've heard this story before. I got into reloading because I got tired of paying $50 a box for 44 Magnum because I bought a really nice gun. It was my second pistol purchase ever. It was my Smith & Wesson Performance Center 629 Competitor, and I really like it, and I really like shooting it, but it was really expensive to shoot. So I sat down one day and I watched. I want to say it was an Iraq veteran video about 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, and what he had said was, "You're gonna have to feed these guns and it's going to be expensive. What you may want to consider is don't buy one gun this year at the time that he put out the video and use the money that that gun would have cost to buy yourself an entire reloading setup." And I said, yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, like I started with the Lee breech lock kit, and the only thing I added onto it was I bought a digital scale. And I think that's it. Like the kit came with everything else. I bought a digital scale and digital calipers. That's all I had to buy extra. And then I went to like IKEA and I bought a butcher block bench, and then I mounted it all in there, and off I went. So like I was making 44 Magnum. I think I was getting it down to about 8 or 9 cents a round. So I was making 50 of them for what, less than $5? Something like that? No, a little more than $5. Anyway, the side effect to that is you save a ton of money per round making it yourself. The other thing is you have the peace of mind of knowing what's actually in it because you picked the recipe and put it together. Um, and I'll take this even further. You have just as much chance of factory self-defense ammo failing to fire as you would your hand loads. So at least with your hand loads, you've got nobody to blame but yourself or the materials being subpar. If you buy the good stuff, it should always work. But I guess you can make the argument for self-defense ammo the same way. If you pay for the good stuff, it should always work. But you still have that possibility that it's not going to fire. So loading your own self-defense ammo saves you a buku amount of money, and you have the same odds. You really do. Especially like me. I carry Spear gold dots. CCI owns Spear. I use CCI primers. Therefore, if it doesn't go off, it's just as likely not to go off because of that, whether I make it or I buy a gold dot. I buy the gold dot bullets, I buy the CCI primers, and I use my own, I use a powder per caliber. I use, I think it's accurate number 7 for 9mm. I think that's what it is. Anyway, but yeah, you save a lot of money per round, but what you end up doing is because of your savings, you end up shooting a lot more because you've got more ammo to play with for that same dollar amount. So yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that.
Something else a lot of people don't consider about it is on that factory store-bought self-defense ammo, there's a lot more hands involved between it being made, you put it in your gun.
I want to say that I think a lot of that's probably automated. For instance, somebody has to reach in, grab a box, pull out this big plastic bag of brand new brass, rip the bag open, dump it in a hopper. Same thing for primer, same thing for powder.
I'm talking about when it's loaded, somebody's got to put it in the truck. This truck's got to take it somewhere.
Sure.
Then probably another truck takes it somewhere else.
Okay.
There's a lot more risk of exposure to stuff that it don't need to be exposed
Okay,
to.
he's talking about the distribution.
Yeah, I'm with you now. Okay, so what you're saying is like when you make it, it goes from your bench to your gun and done. Or your bench to your box, and then from your box to your gun. One and done. Everything in the same place, same relative humidity and temperature it was created in. Whereas...
Exactly.
Okay, and then like, if you go and buy... I'll use Monarch as an example, right? So if I had a 9mm Makarov round from Monarch, it was made and assembled in Bosnia, or Serbia. Then it had to go through a courier to an airport, a courier to an exporter, probably to an airport, And then once it got across the ocean, so it changed air pressure and elevation by the tens of thousands of feet. It changed the relative humidity by being in a country that's fairly moist, being put up into an atmosphere that's very cold and dry, and then coming back down to an atmosphere that's again more level and moist again. So I'm with you. I got you. And then trucks to stores to stockers' hands to the shelf, and looky-loos picking up the box and opening it and grabbing around and making sure that's all in there and shit. Yeah, okay, I'm with you on that.
And most of its transport is not climate controlled, so
Right. Yeah, there's no refrigerated trucks for ammo.
That's just something that people generally don't think about, which I do.
Yeah. So there is that. So your week in review's good. Scott's week in review is pretty good. Although his vacation ended. My week in review is pretty nondescript, I guess. My girlfriend, who is now my ex-girlfriend, I think she finally figured out what happened. Because out of the blue last night, I got a text message. So I pretty much laid it all out there. And I'm like, this is the most adult conversation that we've ever had. And it's probably the last one you're ever going to get from me. So I laid it all out. And I'm just like, I don't know if you slept with the dude, but I know you went out with the dude. And I'm like, and that's pretty shitty. Especially since you didn't even tell me. Especially since I had to find out through other means. Because you're too stupid to turn off your other social medias. You turn off one, but you don't turn off the other one, where I'm the first person you added. And then you post it there. And I'm like, oh look, I thought you were working that day. So, I don't know. I don't know what to take from it, because like, she's very distraught right now. And I don't know why.
You know she done fucked up.
Yeah, but I mean, still. Okay, so I laid this out there, and I did it publicly, sort of, where all her friends can see it. And they jumped her shit. Like, most of her friends were like, I can't believe you've become the very thing that you hated your whole life. She's like, I can't be friends with people like that anymore. And like, her own friends started like just peacing out. And that's when I think she reached out to me, because one of my other exes, her sister is friends with me and all, you know, it's like one big happy family, right? She saw what was going on and started sending me screenshots of this chick's friends bailing on her. She was like, I don't know what you've done, but you've done something. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, you have to see this. And she sent it to me, and I'm like, I just put it out there. I was like, I don't give a shit. So anyway, yeah, I ghosted her all week, and all of a sudden I started getting all these texts yesterday. And I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I really don't. I'm not taking her back or anything. I wasn't bothered by it in the first place. I was just like, whatever. You're just like all the other ones. But that's pretty much all I had. I hurt my back at work because you ever have good intentions and try to help your fellow worker and then you make things worse? That happened to me. You know, we had thought we were getting a hurricane bearing down on us, and it looks like it's going to hit New Orleans tomorrow or Monday. And we got this container in, so I was like trying to load up all these pallets into the warehouse before the rain started, because we had them all laid out outside, right? And George was trying to like move them around in places in the warehouse that they would fit before the rain would start. So I picked up this one, and it was, oh, I was wrong about the weight, by the way. It was 900 kilograms, which is way heavier than the 900 pounds I thought. That's actually 1,990 pounds. So I lifted it, and I was getting ready to bring it in, and he goes, that pallet's broken. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I stopped the forklift, I jump out, and it's starting to rain. I grab a fresh pallet, put it underneath, and I was getting ready to lay the broken one on top of the good one, so it'd have more stability, because I've seen him do it 1,000 times. I didn't realize how broken the one I was holding was, so when I lowered it down, the whole thing fell forward and just all 1,900 pounds of shit fell flat on the ground. Now it's just like giant boxes of like heavy, plastic bags and sterilized bags and stuff, but it weighs 1,990 pounds. So like, he was kind of mad, and I'm already like grabbing these things and throwing them on a pallet, brick by brick, basically, and I'm getting poured on, and he was like just kind of upset, and I was like, I'm just trying to fucking help you, and he goes, I know. And then he starts throwing them on there. So we managed to load the whole pallet on a new one in 5 minutes, while I'm leaning up against a 7,000 pound all metal forklift, and lightning is literally just crashing all around us, and it's raining like, the drops are the size of like freaking silver dollars. So anyway, yeah, I hurt my back trying to get all that done, and my legs, and my shoulders, and my forearms, and my Popeyes. Like, it was rough. Yesterday was pretty rough. I was sore all over. It felt like a heavy gym day, but I did it all in 5 minutes, and I came back in the warehouse smelling like a wet dog. So that was that. I keep saying that I want to load more 9mm, and I never get around to doing it. So, like, all the powder's still in the hopper, and I'm probably going to say it again. I'm going to try to load 9mm after the show, but chances are probably not. What else? I can't think of anything. Oh, so there was a company that gave me sort of a sponsorship deal, and I received a weapon laser, a pistol laser, yesterday. And I got to admit, I mean, it's going to be part of a series I call Cheap Thrills. It's like, I don't buy Surefires and Olights all the time. I know sometimes I try other things just because a lot of my guns in my collection are, they're not my go-to war guns or anything. I put the good stuff on the guns I depend my life on. But like, I've got plinkers and other things. I got a ton of milsurps, as you all know. I put this laser on my Smith & Wesson 380 Easy Shield because it fits proportionally on the gun perfectly. And the green laser is incredibly bright. Like, I'll probably do a real short review on it. And I call it the Cheap Thrill segment because I think I paid $53 for it. And then what ends up happening is the sponsor refunds your purchase price. So I buy it, and then he refunds me the item cost, and then the only thing I ended up paying was tax, which I think was like $2.40 or whatever. So I ended up getting a $60-ish laser for $3. And so far it seems cool. It has a magnetic charger, kind of like how the Olight Valkyrie works. And it's got a button on either side, so it's ambidextrous. The only thing I'm not sure if I like or not is it doesn't have a momentary switch. It's on or off. But I mean, I don't use lasers like a lot of people do anyway. I typically use I guess we can get into this discussion a bit. I use a weapon laser as a means of making sure that my fundamentals are good. So when I go to the range, I will clip the laser on, and it's not because I'm trying to aim. I still use the sights only. What I'm doing is I'm looking with I'm left eye dominant, even though I'm right-handed. So my right eye is focusing down the target because it's away from the gun, because I favor the pistol to my left side of my face. So with my right eye, I can look down at the target, and I can see if I'm flinching. Because there was a time where, and there's nothing wrong with this. Some people are just going to flinch. It's just the way it is, right? So what you end up doing is people will, they'll zero their gun to the flinch, knowing that it's going to happen. And it's still repetition and muscle memory and practice. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just some people are always going to flinch because recoil is no joke, right? I mean, it's a lot of concussive force instantly hitting every joint in your hands, your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder all at once. And if you have arthritis, that's a big deal. But I use the laser just to see if I'm flinching. I could see the dot being pulled down at the moment I pulled the trigger. Or I could see it getting jerked over to the left or to the right or whatever. So as a tool for that, it's perfect. Because what I do is I check and then I verify, and then if I'm flinching, then, I try to fight that. I slow down and I try to just go back to the basics and see if I can keep that dot as still as possible. I don't even zero the laser. Like, I just use the sights. But I keep an eye on the laser just to make sure that it's, moving or twitching. But yeah, the beam on that thing is ridiculous. Like, you don't think your house has dust in it until you fire a laser beam into a pitch black room at midnight. I did that last night. And it's like, with a red laser, it's like in Hollywood, you're supposed to see these long beams, but in reality, you really don't. With this green one, I saw the beam. Like, I could see little particles of dust everywhere, microparticles, like not the stuff that you would see and wipe off your desk or whatever. It was even smaller than that, because it looked like little crystals in the air. And I've never seen that with a red laser, but with this green one, Jesus. I hit the dog bed, which is bright red, and the beam turned bright yellow because it like smashed into the red and changed the color from the refraction. So it's kind of cool. I'm not a shill. Like, I pay for it, and then they pay me back, and then I just tell them an honest review. I have given them a negative review on a shoulder holster that they sent me. Lasers are best used by squad leader designated. Yeah, IR lasers for sure. Like, I'm not against the idea of using an IR laser. I actually have one. Not a fancy one, but it works. And I've seen it work, so it actually works. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I actually left them a bad review one time on a shoulder rig that they sent me. And it was because it was unbelievably uncomfortable. It was like nylon and web gear, and it had real itchy thread to sew it all together. And the back strap that goes across your shoulder blades, it rides way too high. Like, you can't adjust it down off the back of your neck. So like, you put it on and it always feels a little awkward. And then throughout the day, it doesn't ride up your neck. It's already on your neck, and it just saws back and forth. And like, one day when I wore it, it started itching real bad, so I reach back and I start just kind of rubbing the itch, and I had blood all over my fingers because the nylon string had cut me repeatedly. Like, imagine taking like a knife and then moving a piece of ham across it a couple of times. You know what's going to happen. But yeah, it hurt, so I left a bad review. The guy appreciated me being honest about it. He was like, "We'll work on the design." And I'm like, "You do that."
HBS says dust detection is not a good reason for buying a laser, in his humble opinion.
No, he's right. Like, I don't think it is
I-
either.
I don't know, man.
It was just an observation, Like, most of my house is hardwood floors or tiles. I try to keep carpet in the bedrooms just because I don't like walking across cold tiles barefoot, especially in the winter. So like, I keep, carpet in the bedrooms. But with carpet comes dust, and like, this laser was like, "Hey, dust is a problem in this room. Do something about it," kind of a thing.
Christ, you got a whole shitload of walking dust mops.
Yeah, I do. That's why everything from like the floor up to 6 inches is pretty clean. I guess. If they're not peeing on it, they're wiping the dust off of it, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. So sitting next to me is my female Yorkie, the last born first litter female that I kept, and she's almost out of heat, finally, because this morning I let her out and none of the dogs went crazy, which is good. But, I still got her in here as just in case, because I call it almond joy because it's about the size of one, and when a female dog goes into heat, it swells dramatically, and it's starting to go back down to almond size. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's finally over.
I've decided I'm gonna avoid that whole process with my fucking dog.
Well, this one I do want to. I want to let her have at least one litter. I think my neighbor has a purebred Yorkie, and I gotta ask him because he's the kind of guy that would be cool with this arrangement. I'll be like, "Look, if you want, you can bring your dog over to my place. we'll just let stuff happen. If it happens, then I'll just come bring him back to your house because, we share a yard. And I'm pretty sure he's cool with it. And then I just need to figure out if he wants a stud fee, or if he even knows what one is, or if he wants pick of the litter. Because that's going to take away potentially 25% of my total sales of however many the litter is. Usually my dogs have 3 or 4. The first litter was 3, second was 4, third was 4. And then with
Now
her,
look, you got to approach this the proper way. You got to go to this guy and say, "Look, I can get your boy laid."
Like, yeah, your boy's looking a little cross-eyed and a little anxious. Maybe he's got some wild oats to sow. But yeah, I think she's coming out, so this will be her second heat, and I didn't let her have puppies. If she goes into another one, it's usually once every 6 months or so, so I guess her next one won't be until about February. I'll consider it then. The thing I'm worried about is if her mom goes into heat after she comes out, I have to go through this whole process again for the next 3 weeks, where all the male dogs are going crazy, and I got to leave them on the other side of the house. It's a real pain in the ass. It really is. And
I just freaking opted out spayed.
I think I'm going to get the males fixed. Just because, 1, it's less traumatic on the body. 2, they're either the sons or the brothers of the females I've got, so that'll solve that. And then
my thinking on that was I couldn't get every freaking male in town done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now I've got 4 males and 2 females. 1 male I'll keep him intact, like the original male. I'll leave him intact, but the 3 male puppies he had, I'll probably get them fixed. And I think another thing is it'll help with the whole marking territory thing throughout the house. They hit the pads, like I know all their usual places, so I put a pad on it or near it, and they typically hit the pads, but still, it's really annoying,
Yeah, and they do say getting them fixed does
stop the marking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're trying not to be as territorial. We'll see. I think my shelters in the area. I've heard of it in the past growing up that they have these drives where you can bring in male dogs to get fixed for free on certain times of the month or certain times of the year. So like I'll keep an eye out for that. I know I'm committing a cardinal sin for the male species, but it's easier than getting the females done.
You can also contact your local humane society.
Yeah.
They usually put on greatly reduced price.
Yeah.
Fixing you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that because I'm never gonna breed the males I've got. I've got the father, but the 3 sons I'm probably not. I don't know. See, the firstborn male that I had, he has genetic characteristics that would be good for breeding stock, and I never thought in my whole life I would even have animal husbandry discussions before. But it's good money. And the good money is gun money. I mean, if you've seen my milsurp wall, I had 12 puppies. I've got 12 milsurps on the wall.
See, that may be back in my mind with this male I've got, why I ain't pushing to have him fixed real quick either, because he is marked well and he is big.
Yeah. See, I kept the females because you keep more puppies if you have the female. If you have a male and you stud it out, you're either only going to get the cost of 1 dog or you're going to get pick of the litter. So you only end up with 1. But then again, having the male is not such a bad thing because you don't have to deal with doggy delivery and cleaning up after it and the weaning and all that shit. So maybe you're onto something.
All them yapping fucking pups.
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah, there's that. I made the whelping box I have, I use like a parrot cage. So what I would do is I'd throw the mom in there with their puppies, and then at night I would throw a giant towel over the top of it. I'd leave an openings for fresh air to get in, but it would kind of mute the noises down there. And then I could sleep through it, but you're right. It's pretty...
I tried that too, but my parrot cage was 3 feet by 4 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Took a freaking couple of bedroom blankets over to cover them up.
Yep.
And it still didn't shut them up.
All right, so we have gone on for, I've wasted 40 minutes of y'all's time with our weeks in review. That was our personal weeks in review. Let's get into the news because we do have a lot to cover. First and foremost, if you are familiar with anything politically Houston, Texas, you'll know that even though I am in the fourth largest city, not me personally, I live 27 miles outside of it, but if you live in the city Houston proper, you are trapped behind enemy lines because it's a blue city. And one of the things that was really infuriating to me was a couple of years ago we had our general election, and a good man lost his job. The county had a Republican, conservative, veteran county judge. And it was only because of straight ticket voting during the general federal election that he lost his job. Because the person who had won it was a college dropout who was 28 years old at the time, and she had absolutely zero experience in anything. She paid, I think it was $150 to put her name on the ballot. She never ran a campaign. She never had any commercials. She never put out anything in the newspapers or on the internet. And she found out, like most of us, that she had won by complete surprise. Like, her first interview was the dumbest thing I ever heard. She was like, I can't believe I actually won. I just woke up one day and a couple of my friends told me that I had won the seat of county judge. She's responsible for all the logistics and planning during a disaster declaration in the city, in the fourth largest city in the country. And that was her response. So everyone calls her Dora the Explorer because she kind of does look like a moron. So anyway, Dora the Explorer, she had decided that she wanted to chime in her opinion on the NRA's decision to not come and host the show next weekend. A show that a few of you asked if I was going to which I emphatically said, fuck no, fuck the NRA. They're the reason we have all the problems we have today with gun control. But still, now that that's been taken away, I'm like, I kind of wish I would have went. That's all. It always works out that way, right? Anyway, this idiot here, she, what they didn't tell you is the NRA didn't just decide this. The Democratic mayor and this county judge had pressured the NRA to not open. And the question that I had, and I think I even wrote it in my little, So, what I wrote, I always write a little editorial next to the links before I put these stories out there. I'm going to scroll this down a little bit if you want to read the story. It's kind of short. But anyway, she just put sending thoughts and prayers as a response to the show being canceled. Like, she tried to do the Southern Belle's Bless Your Heart, because that's the way it came off, and people jumped her shit for it. And she hasn't posted anything since, because it was open mouth insert foot. The reason why this upsets me as much as it does is a pretty simple question. What I'd like to know is, how much money did she make? How much money did the city of Houston make? And how much did Harris County, which is where the city sits in, how much did it make for the hundreds of thousands of people who even make the NRA show possible? Think about the logistics of hosting a show as large as the NRA show. How many hotel reservations were paid ahead of time? How many rental cars had a deposit put on it? Trucks, vans, 18-wheelers, generators, hardware, all the stuff that had been paid ahead of time for reservations or purchased to install into the convention center. Think of how many people in the city were temporarily hired to come and help assemble and set up the booths. Think of how many of those people had to order takeout 5 or 6 times a day and in the middle of the night while they're trying to build one of the largest shows in the country that only happens once a year. Just to say, hey, thanks for your revenue, but now you got to leave without having your show. Because COVID. Think of all that money that was spent. It's almost like extortion. They took the money and then they said, no, you can't have your show here. And the NRA was like Wayne LaPierre was like, you're right. No, we can't have our show here. Thank you for showing me the way. You feckless twat. This is week
Speaking-
141 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve, by the way.
Speaking of COVID and our weekend review, if I might reiterate a little,
Sure.
we go back on fucking lockdown Wednesday.
For what?
COVID.
Yeah. So for you, it's week 142 of 2 weeks to stop the flatten the curve. Week 142 weeks. Remember the number that COVID used to follow? Do you notice that they don't say the number anymore? 19. COVID-19. This is 21.
Well, could be worse. We could be New Zealand, where they are literally locking down the entire freaking country for, guess it,
Because
one
COVID.
They
COVID
put a-
positive person.
Well,
They
okay.
fucking clamped down on Australia too.
Oh,
You-
they're arresting people in Australia.
For you all that are watching, we host a show on the weekdays. We don't do a live show. We have what I call the lobby for working stiffs. And I know you can't see it on the list right now on the Discord. Let me see if I can get it to pop up real quick. Right up here, okay? We have lobby for working stiffs. And that's where we talk every day. And some of you may have remembered a story that I told about that. Oh crap, I just brain farted. Oh, yeah. So many of you will remember a story that I told a long time ago about the stimulus bills. So brace yourselves, children, because I'm about to go into a rant. If you look at the price of the first stimulus bill and what little hush money you got in relation to that, what was it, a $1 trillion or $2 trillion stimulus bill the first time? The American
I only got 600.
Right. The American payout for hush money from the first stimulus bill was $264 billion out of a $2 trillion spending bill. $264 billion. That's it. The second time, it was like 370 something billion out of, I think it was a 2.9 or $3 trillion spending bill. And then the one that they just recently passed that they called the infrastructure bill is $4 trillion. And you don't get any hush money this time. How does that
People with
work?
kids do.
How does that work? They're
People
taking
who have kids are
taking
who have
our
kids are
money.
getting. Look, people who have kids are getting $300 a month per kid.
Yes.
Hush money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. So because some people's loins were more productive than others, fuck the rest of you guys. These guys had kids, so they get extra money. Okay. So people with kids got some hush money. And then the Supreme Court decides that, you know what? They can't evict you. They need to make their money too. So imagine that. Now you've got no hush money unless you have children, and you may not have a job still, and now you can be evicted because the Supreme Court said it's okay. Like, what ass backwards thinking is that? But that's not what I was getting at. What I was getting at was what Scott mentioned about New Zealand. And it's pretty simple. Years ago when this all kicked off, because it has been years, 2 years and what, 16 weeks, right? This all kicked off in January of 19. I had a proposal with the first stimulus bill. where I took the amount of the bill and I divided it amongst the 220 million eligible recipients of the hush money, and it turned out to be $18,181.81 per person that was qualified. If you live in a household where 3 people are qualified, that's a pretty good chunk of money.
That's fucking retire for a couple years' money.
Well, my whole point is we could have done exactly what Scott described in New Zealand. We could have literally shut down the entire country for 2 weeks to flatten the curve if they had cut every eligible citizen of America, which was about 220 million, an $18,181 check. Like, they could have went up there and said, we're giving you a check for 18 grand. You have 10 days to go buy everything you need now to stay isolated for 14 days. We're going to shut down the country for 14 days. No airports, no couriers, no mail. Grocery stores on an incredibly limited, case-by-case basis only. And everyone just stay the fuck home for 2 weeks. And you will get a check for 18 grand. Everybody could have afforded to do that. And yet they didn't do that, did they? They said, take your 1,200 and shut the fuck up.
Had they done that, we still wouldn't have toilet paper.
Well, yeah. But I mean, the point is if you want to lock down the country, you have to totally lock down the country. And if you're going to totally lock down the country, you have to make sure that everybody who's locked down has the means to stay locked down without being under duress because they ran out of something. And they didn't do that because we're being led by idiots. Which is why we're at a week 140 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
We're at week 140 because we didn't let this thing run its natural course. We tried to control nature.
Well, see, this isn't nature. This is a biological weapon. This was synthesized. This doesn't occur in nature. This was created.
Still, the idea of the way a virus works is nature.
Oh, you mean how it passes through and you just have to let it run its course. I'm
Yes.
with you there. All right, so next story. Wait, I got to get rid of this one, right? Yeah. Here. I called it Behind Enemy Lines because in the beginning of this, the story and the narrative was that this was Joe Biden's Saigon when they were showing video of Chinook helicopters airlifting people out of embassies and things, which is exactly like it was 50 years ago. The enemy was bearing down on you, and we had to get the hell out, right? We left with our tail between our legs. My dad fought in that war. Like, he has stories. Like, during that particular part of Vietnam, he was a door gunner. So he's got a lot of stories. But we have taken Saigon and now turned it into Joe Biden's Dunkirk. Because if you think about it, we had fought and died and bled for 21 years, roughly. 20 years, roughly. And we still didn't have full control of the country. And yet, it all went away and was taken in 7 days by a group that has less than 80,000 members. The most powerful nation on Earth with a population of 330 plus million people, plus about 30 million illegals that aren't counted on the census yet, has been defeated by a group less than 80,000 in the most geopolitically embarrassing way ever. And now they have surrounded the exfil down to one airport in one city. And here's the worst part. If you guys were listening to this show last week, I called it. I told you. You put all these people in one place, and they're desperate to get out. And all it's going to take is one motivated terrorist to realize that a fox can enter the henhouse and have chicken for dinner. And what happened the other day? 2 bombs went off. I called it. Most people knew it. Ray Charles could see it, and he's been dead for decades. Stevie Wonder can see it. Apparently our government can't. Like, when I see the idiot standing at the podium at the Pentagon trying to give a press briefing, the director and the general, I'm like, you two should be out of a job. Like, fuck off the camera. Go away. You're useless. So now we've got Dunkirk, and Dunkirk has been attacked. And now you've got people who were told, go to the airport, to not go to the airport. So they're trapped. So what do you do? What do they do? You can't suppress the video. The news will not show you this. Even Fox had tried to show video, and they said, we can't show you all of this because it may be too sensitive or offensive to viewing eyes. But you know what I say? I say that you should show it. You should show the worst of it in the most brutal and graphic and violent way possible. You show that guy hanging onto his neck with his arterial blood squirting through his fingers and watch the life come out of him very slowly as he's terrified, pissing himself on camera because he knows he's going to die. You show that to the American people. You show that to the whole world. You don't shelter people from the reality of what's going on, because you're watering down the anger that should be at the forefront of this whole situation. You're not telling the whole story. You're lying to the people with artificial propaganda. And, you know, you're trying to put a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. You need to show the bullet hole. People need to be disgusted by what they see, so somebody will have the guts to stand up and do something about it. Because right now, you ain't got a fucking clue, do you? None of them do.
You know, an interesting side note on the Saigon comparison that, and I don't know if this is absolutely factual. I saw it on the internet, so take it for what it's worth. The one thing that drew out Saigon to the point where it got to was Joe Biden fighting President Ford.
Really?
Really.
Well, he was in politics at the time, right?
Been in politics since fucking Stone Age.
Quite possible.
Like I said, I don't know if it's factual or not. I ran across it the other day on somewhere on the internet.
It's feasible. It is feasible. So until you find a smoking gun or evidence to show it, okay, we'll keep it as feasible. But anyway, in line with this theme today, the way I wrote this was, my caption was, what do you do when you know you're going to die? Well, if you're in Afghanistan, you tell it to the entire world on national TV. So there's this guy, and he's an interpreter, and he worked for the government, for our government, for 20 years. And they gave him an alias, and they called him Carl. And during this interview, he talked about witnessing what he saw at the Kabul airport the morning of the explosions. They interviewed another guy who said that he had picked up a small child's body and tried to call out for her parents, and nobody responded. So he had assumed that the parents had died. And he took the kid to the hospital, carried her to a triage unit, and they told him that she had been dead before he even picked her up, which is pretty disturbing. But this guy Carl was corroborating these stories. So this lady here, right here, this one here, I got nothing against this person. Don't get me wrong. She has a certain look, a certain type of person, but this is not what this isn't what it looks like. This lady here in the middle is part of a group of people here in the United States who are trying to exfil people who helped our soldiers in Afghanistan. And she knows this guy that they called Carl. And the saddest thing she heard during the interview, which and he was so calm and so at peace with it. He goes, "Look, it's okay. I know I'm gonna die. They're gonna find me and they're gonna kill me. They're gonna find my family, whoever's left of it, and they're gonna kill them too." And he was like, "You had your chance to get us out, and now you don't. And now I have to live with that for as long as I'm going to live the rest of my days until they find me." And she started crying right on camera. Dana Perino, the girl at the bottom, she used to work in the White House press corps, I think during George W. Bush. And she's married to a British diplomat. And she was crying. And Bill Hemmer, the guy on top, he was really disturbed by it. He didn't want to hear it because he knew that there was nothing he personally could do. But the fact that this guy had giant, meaty ones and just said, "It's okay. I know I'm going to die. It's fine." Like, who does that? And how did we allow it? Like, how did we allow this? How did we as a people allow this? Who the hell put these people in charge that allowed this?
How in the hell, in the future, does anybody trust us?
They don't.
No.
That's the thing. You're spot on. We have no allies. And we never have. Ever. You want proof? Think about it like this. Every time there's a conflict, whose nation's soldiers go out? Ours. How many do we send? Tens of thousands. Do you know how many troops the Dutch sent? Like 15. How many troops does Norway send? 4. How many troops do Egypt send? 1.
Now, as far as Holland and Norway, 15 and 4 might be all they got.
No. The point is we bankroll the world, we buy their loyalty, and we sacrifice our people, and they send in a pittance as a gesture to say, "Hey, we were there. What are you talking about? We're an ally. We were there." That's what they do. That's what they've always done throughout history. They don't put in as many.
Thanks for waxing the Hummer for us.
Yeah. I mean, the British put in a pretty good-sized number. Let's be fair. The French usually put in a good-sized number. But I mean, think about all the other countries, the smaller countries, the satellite countries, that we claim are allies, who would slit our throat at a moment's notice if the money ran out. Right? We don't have allies. And now we absolutely don't have allies.
Think about it now. If we went to some of the Baltic countries, or Poland, say,
Sure.
and said, "Hey, look, we want to invade Russia. We want you to help, but we'll back you all the way." I think Poland's going to say, "Sure, man, we're in." Or, "Fuck you, we see how that works."
Well, I just don't know where to go with that. Like, I really feel sorry for that guy. I feel sorry for anybody who fell for the ruse. I mean, okay, George, my coworker, right? He cannot go home to Mexico ever. He's been exiled from his own country because he fell for a similar propaganda. In the late 70s, the U.S. military was looking for native Spanish speakers, familiar with Mexico, Central and South America. Well, George grew up in a mountain town in Mexico, and he went to a military academy who constantly sent him to Central and South America on trips. So he was very familiar with the area. He signed on the dotted line to to work for the American Special Forces, I think it was. And they promised him citizenship. Well, his name got leaked out while he served in the South American drug wars. He was there during the capture of Manuel Noriega. Then he was sent off to Desert Shield and I think Desert Storm. And then his last deployment was in Serbia or Bosnia, that conflict. And then he had had enough. And when he came home, his mother called and said, "Don't come back to the country. They're looking for you. You have been branded a traitor. Your brother has been harassed to the point of physical beatings, and they're monitoring my house." And it's been that way ever since. He can't go back. He's had to change his name, his assumed name. He had to go to DOD, get a new social security number, and have a new name like every 5 to 7 years. And out of his original unit, there's only 4 guys left. One of them happens to be the older brother of a friend of mine that I grew up with. That's the only way I can corroborate the 2 stories, because they both have the same unit photo. And they're both in it. And they're 2 out of 4 survivors. So anyway.
You know, when it comes to George and all the training and stuff, I want to meet the guy who taught him to speak English. Because this dude has the best command on most ways to use the word fuck I've ever heard.
Oh yeah, it's his
military.
comma. It's a comma for him. Like that man's a rare quality. He really is.
He should write a book, 1001 Ways to Use the Word Fuck in a Sentence.
All right, so I'm gonna move things along. We're gonna step away from Afghanistan for a minute. We're gonna come back to it, but I'm putting the gap in there similar to the way the press put the gap in between Saigon to Dunkirk. There's a new name that's coming, and it's starting to catch on. I put it all over social media. A lot of people started reposting that, and I think outlets in the news are starting to catch on too, because I've already heard 2 outlets use the exact same phrase I did. I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying that I saw it too.
I was going to say, that's a little bit fucking egotistical on your part.
Well, no, I mean, I saw it happening, and I think everyone else, think of it as like simultaneous invention, right? There's 7 billion people. There is no new ideas. I have the same idea somebody halfway across the world probably had at the same time. That kind of thing. But anyway. So I wrote this, and I called it 20 States Can't Be Wrong. Let me pull this up here for you. The attorneys general of 20 states are fighting back against an unconstitutional Biden administration proposal to regulate gun parts. They're fighting against the ghost gun bill. And what I really thought was kind of fun was, isn't it funny how there are now 21 constitutional carry states, and there are 20 states fighting against ghost gun bills?
I find this whole goddamn thing offensive.
Go on.
Well, I'm in the state that's going to be like 52 in line of getting concealed carry or constitutional carry. It ain't going to fucking happen here.
Well, you know how the saying goes, you get the government you deserve. So if you're not electing these people out of office, you're just going to keep getting this result. I'm not saying you personally, because I know.
Until somebody fucking blows Chicago off the face of the earth, I'm fucked.
Well, how does she still have a job, Mayor Lightfoot?
I'm not even talking
Chicago politics.
Well, no, I guess what I'm saying is doesn't the governor have the legal means to ouster a corrupt or negligent mayor, especially of a major city? Like, can't they do something about that? Call for a special election or something?
You're talking hot calling the kettle black.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay, I'll use your guy as an example, right? Dick Durbin will talk to you. You have said this repeatedly throughout the years.
Yeah, I will give him credit for that.
So how come he hasn't suggested this?
I don't give a shit.
Maybe. Tammy Duckworth?
Another one. Who's
Pritzker?
that?
Doesn't the
Disabled-
Texas legislature have the authority and the power to remove county judges?
Probably.
Now
They haven't.
we have a number of very conservative-leaning, strong Republicans in the south of the state. I mean, like everywhere south of 80,
Mhm.
maybe even more than that. It's pretty damn conservative in this state. But we get fucked over because we got millions and millions of people stuck in Cook County that all vote with their hand out. I mean, vote blue.
For you guys watching, I scrolled down the page. I'm trying to be better at that in case you actually want to read the stories.
I mean, that whole there's 20 states that have constitutional carry is just offensive because I'm in one. It's ever going to have that.
Well, I guess to follow in line with this story, I built my first AR years ago just to say I did it. I restored my first milsurp for the same reason. I built my first rifle from the ground up for the same reason. The 1903 in this old GAT. I also purchased my first 80%er just to see if I could do it, you know? Like, I like to challenge myself with technological experiments, I guess is a good way to put it, because this requires a bit of knowledge for machine work, clearly. I bought a Polymer 80 308 lower because my only AR-10 that I built, it's huge. It's got a 24-inch barrel. It's very heavy. You know, I've probably described it before. It's an Overwatch rifle. This is not a running gun rifle. But I like 308 and I like the AR-10 as a platform. So I killed two birds with one stone. I'm going to build a CQB AR-10, 12.5-inch barrel, with a Polymer 80 lower. And my goal is to try to build it to weigh less than 8 pounds. Because the one I've got now, fully loaded, I use 20-round Steelies, but I did buy a D50 once, which I got. It's quite heavy. 19 pounds with the D50 on it. So, yeah, if I can get it under 8 pounds with the 20-round Steely, I'll be really happy. And then I may even buy a couple of Magpul ones just to get, a polymer body to get a little bit more weight savings. But that's my goal. It's going to be my Christmas build. But, yeah, this whole ghost gun thing, it's kind of funny. You are told you can't do something, and then you want to do it. So I'm going to try it. I bought the last one that Primary Arms had in stock. So they mailed it to me. I got it sitting behind me. I don't have a drill press. My friend does, though. So he was like, yeah, bring it on over. He's like, I got to do my 15 AR-15 80% lower. And he's got another friend that's coming over with his 80% lower. He's like, yeah, bring that over in like a 12-pack and we'll make a build party out of it. I'm like, cool, let's do that.
So you're going into the illicit manufacture of firearms. I see.
It's perfectly within my legal rights. The problem I'm running into right now happens to fall along the same lines as the pistol brace ban that they're working on, because the one I want to use is discontinued. So I have to find one, and they're marked up now because they're discontinued. But I'm looking for an SB Tactical SB PDW. I have two. I had two. I used one when I built Georgia pistol, but I've got one left, and that's on my 8-inch AR-15 pistol. And now I need another one so I can build my AR-10 one with it, because it's a 3-position collapsible, and it'll make it shorter. It's actually quite heavy, but I want to use that. Like, I've decided I want to use that one, because I have an SB A4, but I put that on my 50 Beowulf, and I don't think it would work for the 308 anyway. Like, I don't want to use that one twice. I try to do something different with every build. Anyway, so yeah, 20 states, they can't be wrong. We're going after 80%ers, they're not gaining any traction right now because COVID. And now because Afghanistan. So, yeah, there's that. Next story. We're heading back to Afghanistan. Are you surprised? You shouldn't be. All right, so let me see. How did I write this? Okay. So earlier, the media had called it Biden's Saigon, and then it sort of evolved into Biden's Dunkirk, and now, after the events of a couple of days ago, it's turned into what I call Biden's Little Bighorn, or Biden's Last Stand. So this is a local story about a young husband. He's got a kid. His wife's pregnant. He was one of the people that got killed in Afghanistan. And the death toll is over 140 and still counting. But this whole debacle cost America 11 Marines, a Navy corpsman, and an Army soldier. The news doesn't seem to care about the Afghans, though, do they? Oh, it's 160 Afghans now. That got updated. So yeah, it's 173 people and counting. That is Little Bighorn. This is Biden's last stand. They have been surrounded and entrapped in one location, and they're getting picked off in very different and creative ways every day. Whether it's beatings, whether it's there was a firefight and people got shot, whether some asshole had a bomb and blew it up. They're doing this. They're systematically wiping out the crowd. And the crowd has nowhere to go because the tallies hold the whole country now. We lost the whole country. We lost 20 years of gains in 7 days. I cannot stress that enough. Look at the map. There's an animated GIF out there of the map of Afghanistan and how fast the wave of ISIS and Taliban have come across from west to east. It's shocking. It's like the map that you saw in the movie Outbreak, where it was like the United States and you saw this big blob of red and it just kind of spread like wildfire. That's exactly what happened in Afghanistan. So yeah, if you hear the words Biden's Little Bighorn or Biden's Last Stand in the future on the news, remember this podcast because this is where it started, at least the labeling of it. And I did put it on social media, and I did see a couple of news outlets like repost it. I mean, I don't care if I get credit or not for it. I just see it for what it is, and I think it's just simultaneous invention. I think I'm not the only one who saw it like this. But I'm gonna keep saying what it is. I'm gonna voice it out there.
Something that maybe backs that up a little bit is there's rumblings of concerns about midterms from the left.
Oh yeah, they're getting nervous.
Yeah. The beauty of no, that's not. I shouldn't even say it that way. But the beauty of this situation is Democrats cannot cheat their way out of this one. There are too many pissed off Americans and too many people with their eyes of Sauron fixed upon the Democratic National Committee right now to know that there's no way in hell that these people are going to win office. There's no way. Everybody has been affected by the garbage this administration has created. Whether you're an oil pipeline man, whether you're a trucker, whether you're a train operator, whether you're a doctor or a nurse, or you don't have a job, or whether you're just Johnny Q. Public paying $4 a fucking gallon for 93 like I have to. Everybody's been affected by this.
I'm going to tell you, I said that no way in hell thing about 20 months ago. Look at where we are.
Yeah. They can't cheat their way out of this one. There's too many people paying attention now. That's what I'm getting at. Like, they would have to win by the squeakiest of margins. They couldn't overwhelmingly win like they claim they did in the presidential election. There's no way possible. End of story. Period. Like, there's just no way. Unless we have completely lost our minds. Unless this country has collectively lost its mind, which I wouldn't put it past it. That you guys put those retards in there in the first place. So, yeah. We're going to see how much common sense is left in this country next November. And I guess it's going to be our duty. I hate to put this on y'all, but if you're a gun owner, you are an ambassador of the Second Amendment. Carry yourself like an ambassador. Be an educated person. Don't be some fucking rube and acting stupid while carrying constitutionally, you know? Don't be an idiot. And the same thing can be said for us on that lean towards the right. I don't claim to be a conservative or a Republican or anything like that. I do lean towards their ideology more so than the left, clearly. But we are ambassadors of that as well. So you're wearing two hats. If you're watching this, you're probably wearing three hats, but two for sure. So come next year, like start it now, very quietly, just little hints and, you know, in passings you talk to people or whatever. Kind of let them know where you are and see if, you know, they pass your litmus test and see if they like the cut of your jib. And just be like, yeah, okay, you're on board. Let's find someone else who's on board. Let's find the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy. And you start that motivation, so by the time November comes around, everybody gets off their dead ass and goes and do their civic duty, and we start getting rid of the problem. That's what we have to do. That's why we're ambassadors. We have to carry ourselves as such too. We can't just go sit there shaking our fist, wearing an Uncle Sam hat, screaming, "Shall not be infringed," while cracking open a Keystone Light with your pistol falling out of your belt. Can't do that. Not anymore. Price of this game, the stakes are way too high. Unless you like what's going on. If you want it to get worse, then by all means, keep letting it happen. Keep letting it happen. You know, let the Chinese continue to make deals in Afghanistan for our equipment, because that's what they're doing, you know. And if you watched last week, you heard me talk about that. I said, hey, September 1st rolls around, and you're gonna hear about phone calls from Russia and China out the ass to the Taliban. Not only geopolitically legitimizing them as a government, which was our first big mistake, but they're gonna say, hey, you see that Black Hawk helicopter over there that you guys really can't fly? I'll tell you what. Why don't you trade us that Black Hawk, and we will give you 4 Hind helicopters, fully armed, with the tools and parts to keep them running, and we'll even send people over to teach you how to use them. And you just give us that one Black Hawk. We'll give you 4 for every one of theirs. And if you're the Taliban, you're like, fuck yeah, right? They're going to give us new stuff with the support equipment and the knowledge of how to use it for one of this thing we don't know how to use. And then they're going to turn around and take it, and they're going to take it apart, every nut, bolt, and bit of data off of that thing. And they're going to reverse engineer it. They're going to find out how America's military tech works. And if you don't believe me, go to Google, type in Tupolev, Tupolev, Tu-4 bomber, and get yourself a lovely little history lesson on reverse engineering, because the Russians did it. But this time, the Chinese are doing it, because they already brokered that deal. As soon as everyone's gone, and all our equipment's still there, if we haven't airstruck and destroyed it all on the ground, it's going to get put up in a nice little crate, and it's going to get hauled straight over to the PRC. And you know what they're going to do with it? The same thing they do with everything else in this world. Take it apart and AliExpress it.
Yeah, the Chinese already did that to the Black Hawk, though.
Well, still. Updated systems, updated GPS, updated fire control computers. All of that is still there, just sitting there. Gavin actually sat down. Gavin is Sleazy from Gun Channels, if you didn't know. And he was a Marine who served with the CH-53 Super Stallions. and he saw combat, and he knows the area. He knows the dialects. He knows the region. He knows the atmosphere of Afghanistan. And he actually found me the numbers, and I got to thank him for it because the information he provides makes this show better. $85 billion worth of American equipment is sitting there in their hands right now. Vehicles. That's not counting weapons. That's not counting ammo and optics. Just helicopters and stuff. They got $85 billion worth of our stuff. Now, okay, you think about what a nuclear submarine costs. That's like, what, $9 billion, right? So it's like, oh, it's only like 10 subs. No. MRAPs, Black Hawks, freaking Hemmets, like little fucking side-by-sides and shit with 50 cals. Those kinds of things. Those don't cost billions. So think of how many thousands of those things are sitting in fields all over Kabul right now that they've got control of. That we have given to them. Gift wrapped in a nice, neat little package called We're Leaving. Think of all those things that you as American citizens can't legally own without jumping through endless ATF hoops that they just got for free. Where's my MRAP? President Biden, if you're going to leave all that shit there, I expect an MRAP in my driveway in 24 hours. I mean, if you're going to give them to our enemies, you can give them to your citizens, right? Right?
I could always use a helicopter.
I would very
I could use
happily...
a Black Hawk.
I want an MRAP because it's practical. It's not too tall. It's not too wide. It's not too long. It's four-wheel drive. It's multi-fuel. And it's armored. And it'll protect you against mines.
Oh, wait a minute.
I don't
want to crash.
want to fuck with traffic.
I'll take a little bird, though.
Meh. MRAP.
Fine with the Black Hawk just because they look fucking cool.
Just MRAP. Paint it white. Put some fucking black cow spots on it like the old Gateway cow. Seriously, I want one. And I'll hang a cowbell off the back bumper. Like, I would totally do that.
Oh, you'll hang some balls off the hitch, maybe?
The moo wrap. That's what I want. Anyway. That was story number 5. I promised you I got 7. And if this one doesn't piss you off, then you're the human equivalent of a lobster in terms of you have no feeling.
Does that mean I should exit now?
No, this fits you perfectly. State Department is backtracking really hard right now because the president, Captain Sundowner and his merry band of idiots, handed the Taliban essentially a kill list of all American operatives in country with their fucking photos. Why would he do that? Like, why would anybody do that? Now, if you're a fragile ex-libtard, you're probably saying, well, because we have to show them who's over there so they don't know who to attack or who not to shoot at. And it's like, really? This is what this guy looks like. Here's his bio and name, rank, and serial number. And you're thinking, oh, I better not shoot that guy. No. They're going to be like, oh, now I know who to shoot at. Let's be honest. That's what it is. It's a kill list. So
you'd certainly think so if you got any fucking sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's the dossiers have the names, ranks, service, serial numbers, pictures, and last known locations of deployment in country. How's that not a crime? I mean, first of all, you legitimize the terrorist group. Crime number 1. Second of all, you handed sensitive information about the personnel files of your fucking military to the terrorist organization that you legitimized. Double what the fuck. Right? How do you do that? How does he get away with that? Sorry about the dogs barking. I don't know what the fuck is going on out there.
I don't hear him.
Oh, good. So, yeah, the way I wrote it was Biden's gift to our enemies, a kill list he personally handed to them with names, pictures, locations, ranks, serial numbers, and branches of service to our troops serving in Afghanistan. Are you mad enough yet? Are you? Well,
I'm at this point, I would consider myself more stunned than mad that he's that fucking stupid.
I'm gonna
I
go
mean,
with I'll plead the Fifth Amendment on this one.
what fucking advisors told him, yeah, this is a good idea?
well, so the story that I'm linking to you, I had left a comment in there, and it actually got a response from Tucker Carlson. But this is what I wrote. I said, "Are you mad enough yet? When are you people going to start demanding your congressmen and women in red states to bring up legitimate articles of impeachment and to show the left what a real one actually looks like? We have an administration that telegraphs their intentions to commit treason on a daily basis and defiantly attack anyone who questions it with the bold-faced cheek of tyrants. Do you know what the standard punishment for treason is in this country? Does anyone
I
else
know what
want
it
to
used to be.
volunteer to be the next John C. Woods? Because I know I can't be the only one." Now, if you don't know who John C. Woods is, strap in, children, because I'm going to give you a really brief history lesson of the Hangman of Nuremberg. This was a guy who had no prior knowledge, no prior experience. And he stood up and volunteered because he wanted, in his words, to kill some fucking Nazis. And this guy would find creative ways of torturing those who were being hung. One time he used a rope that was too thin, and it took the guy's head right off. One time he made the rope a bit too long, so the guy's legs broke on the way down, and he suffocated to death for a few minutes before expiring. This guy is my hero when it comes to vengeance. And I think we have an entire nation of people who would stand up and do the same thing. Like, if they could, they would say, "You're a treasonous piece of shit. You deserve what you're about to get." Like, there's nothing wrong with that. When you get pushed enough, and you get angry enough, and you have enough people who follow that idea, and they're sick and tired of being shoved around like this, you're gonna get pushback. And we're getting to that point. You know, they keep trying to say that January 6th was an insurrection. They have no idea what one looks like. I mean, I'm going to use a very strange phrase here. Some of you are going to know what it is. And some of you might even say I'm about to break Godwin's law. And you'd probably be correct. But the thing that's missing in this country right now is a nationwide campaign of beer hall push. Which, if you know your history, that was the beginning of what would have turned into Nazi Germany. Now, the problem is that guy was a madman, and he surrounded himself with other madmen. But in the very beginning, very, very beginning, I'm going to preface this now, the guy wasn't wrong, was he? He said, "Stop being ashamed of being a countryman. Be proud to be where you're from. Build here. Buy here. Be here. Be proud of this. Don't be punished for the wars of your fathers." That's how it started, and that's fine. What it evolved into was terrible. And that's what we're kind of at that point now. We need to be proud to be American. We need to stop worrying about what everyone else thinks. We need to stop holding our heads down and bowing to world leaders just because they don't like the way we do things. And yet, we had the apologizer in chief. We got Vice President knee pads. We've got a freaking babbling idiot right now getting our guys killed because he telegraphed an improbable exfil date. And then he told our enemies where we were going to do it and when we were going to leave, so they knew exactly how to take over their own country and surround the one last bastion of freedom left there.
Maybe we ought to send him over there with the double-barrel shotgun to protect those people.
I think we should just airlift the squad over there and see if they can put their political views into practice. Like, I want to see how an Afghani Taliban member would react to a Sudanese radical Muslim that's part of the squad. Like, would he accept her? Would he say, well, yeah, you're one of us? Or would he go, I don't want anything to do with that African trash. They're not one of us. Because honestly, I think that's what it would be. If you look at the history of
acknowledge her because
if you look at the history of Afghanistan, it's warring tribes within their own country. Do you think they're going to accept people from out of country? Are you kidding?
Yeah, but
something is universal is women have no rights over there.
Oh, but they keep saying that they want women in the government.
think of
if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you.
Well, get this, right? They declare that anyone with a blue passport can go through with impunity. Okay. Then they want all the women to join the government. They're encouraging it. Okay. Then why did you set up a website demanding that every girl under or over the age of 15 register so they could be arranged in a marriage with a Taliban member? How are you going to say you want them in the government and then turn around and make them sign up for conscription enslavement?
Now, just think for a second, going back a little bit, how long would the line be before our vice president?
I don't know.
Think about that a minute.
I don't know.
I mean, she may not be as attractive as is cheap, but
she went to Singapore last week. And as she stepped off the plane, the press immediately jumped her on the Afghan crisis. And she laughed. And she said, hold up. I just got here. No, lady. You have a TV and you have a sat phone in one of the most powerful office aircrafts in the world. You know exactly what's coming. And you're going to say, hold up, I just got... No. She got dressed down in public on worldwide TV by the president of Singapore in front of the world. And she cackled and played it off. I mean, basically, he was saying this is why you don't send a woman to do a man's job. He was literally saying that in so many words. Now, I don't think a person's gender has anything to do with the job of vice president. I think what he was saying is grow a pair of nuts and do your job. But yeah, she got dressed down. Has she been in Afghanistan since? No. Has she commented on it? No. Was this a really convenient excuse so the eyes of the world would stop looking at the border and the hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrant invaders into this country that are carrying COVID? Yes. You notice that? No more coverage on the border, is there? Nope. Why is that? Well, it's because it's more important, right? Anyway. That story was to lead into my final story of the day. I'm going to show you, children, what a real impeachment looks like. Thanks to Scott, actually. He found this story. So, we have 2 congressmen, finally, with the balls to stand up and do something about this. A couple weeks ago, there was a congressman out of Ohio, and he raised articles of impeachment. But he did it against the director of Homeland Security for the border crisis. Okay, good start. Got the ball rolling. These 2, Representative Jeff Duncan and Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, are raising articles of impeachment against the president, finally, for the way that he's handling the withdrawal in Afghanistan. And they're demanding that he either steps down or they're going to step him down. And I think that's perfectly fine. And the way he worded it is, it's time to take action and removed the sitting president from office due to his gross negligence that undermined our national security. Fact. Led to the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. Fact. And resulted in a grave humanitarian crisis. Fact. There's a crime there. There is a crime there. He has undermined national security. He has given them the kill list. He gave them the date of our pullout. He gave them the location of our pullout. Treason is simply defined. He gave them the weapons. You're right. Sorry, I completely forgot about it. I completely left that out. He gave them the tools to do the job. They're not Winston Churchill. They didn't say, give us the tools, we'll finish the job. He said, here's some tools to do your job of killing us even better. Okay? The very definition of treason is simple. The deliberate and knowingly deliberate undermining of your government and your national security. The head of our government is undermining our government.
Mm-hmm.
That's treason. Have the balls to see it through. We finally have 2 congressmen willing to do that. And what I would encourage all of you out there is to contact your congressman. Mine being Dan Crenshaw, Judge Troy Nehls, who's now Congressman Troy Nehls, who used to be Army Major Troy Nehls. And I want you to contact your congressman and say, hey, go support the 2 that are raising articles of impeachment and go do your fucking job. Otherwise, you're not going to have one next election. Put their feet to the fire. Because if you want to understand the will of the people, you need to impose your will on those who will represent you. That's what they're there for. That's why whitehouse.gov has the switchboard numbers of every congressman that is serving right now. Get off your dead ass and go contact them. Otherwise, you get the government you deserve. You don't get to sit back and watch this on CNN or Fox and not lift a finger and then claim that you have the right to complain about it. You can't just vote anymore. You have to vote and be educated. You have to educate others. You have to enroll the fence sitter. Not violently and not overbearingly. You mentor these people. You lead the horse to water. They will drink. I really hope this gains traction. I really do. And the only thing that I'm concerned about is so you get rid of the bumbling idiot. Now you've got president knee pads with monogrammed presidential seals on her knee pads. You're going to have a president that nobody wanted. She got 0 delegates. None. She didn't win a single state. 0. Who's that chick from Hawaii?
Hell, I don't know. But even if you bypass her, then you get to President Pelosi.
Well, Tulsi Gabbard. She got 2 delegates. Okay, she has more right to become president than Kamala Harris. She does. And, strangely enough, listen to her talk. Like, take 2A issues aside for a second and listen to everything else she talks about. And I guarantee you, you're going to find common ground with her at least 2 or 3 times. Like, that's my proof to you right now that I am not staunch right. I listen to that woman talk, and every once in a while I go, okay, she's got a point. See, you can work with that. Because you could say, you know, if you would really tone down your 2A rhetoric, you would gain a lot of support from my side. Like, I like what you're saying, but I cannot support you because of this issue. Are you flexible on this issue? Because I could be flexible in supporting you if you are. That's what compromise actually looks like. Anyway, I hope this takes off. I really do. Because it's only been, what, 9 months?
7.
Yeah, 7 months, right? It's been 7 months. And look how far our country has gone in 7 months. Day one, 50,000 people out of work. President pushes the Green New Deal agenda from the squad, and then turns around and buys oil from Russia. They shut our tap off and asked Russia to open theirs up more. Asks OPEC to ramp up production more. We were energy independent for the first time ever in the previous administration. We were exporting oil because we didn't need all of it. We were selling energy wholesale. It's all gone. I paid $1.09 on the night before the election. I paid $1.09 for 93 octane super. Yesterday, I paid $3.89. Why? What changed? Oh, that's right. We're being led by idiots now. Are you mad yet? That's the thing I've been going to nowadays. All these stories that we've presented to you today, and we will continue to present to you throughout the weeks, prior and future, I'm putting them out there to get you to think. Because I'm tired of shaking my fists at it. I'm tired of yelling about it. I'm tired of just criticizing the opposition. Instead, what I thought I would do is just pose this simple question. Are you mad enough yet? And if you get enough people to say yes, then the next thing that happens should be easy. Well, let's organize. Let's do something about this. Constructive, not destructive. Let's get that clear. These two parties that we have now, they weren't the first ones. They will not be the last ones. We don't have to keep them. We definitely don't have to keep the one that's currently in power. We could find a way to legally expel them. Banish them from politics forever. Call the DNC what it is. Organized crime. Make sure everyone that's involved in it is never allowed to touch politics forever. And start a new one. And maybe the new one will still lean a little left, but not as insane. And maybe from the right, it'll branch off and spin off like the Tea Party was created before Obama weaponized the IRS and killed it. Because that's what happened. It was gaining traction on a scale that no one had seen in 100 years. So he weaponized the IRS and put the kibosh on it. Now saying Tea Party is like a dirty word, if you're a liberal. Anyway, so those are my stories. I've shared them with you. So I guess the last thing we have to deal with today is, what does the rest of your weekend look like? Jump in.
Hi. I'm gonna do some mowing. God damn it! I hope.
I'm gonna hit some gun shops.
I have to
Not
watch
look for
dogs
ammo.
again.
Looking for guns. Specific guns.
Spending discipline for me is a hard thing right now. I need to. I want to fix my Mini. I want to drive it. Yes, I own a Mini. And I want to build my AR-10. I need to pull up some money to pay off the Python that still hasn't been delivered since May of last year. I need to continue getting the parts to make the ammo for my Swiss Vetterli and my Siamese Mauser. And I got to buy the scope mount for the Swiss straight pull because I'm going to put a scope on the 89. And then I turn around and I put in a bid on how many of these? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rifles. How's that for spending discipline? So right now,
I can give you a tip on how to practice good spending discipline, and that's
go
get rid
broke.
of your credit cards and live by what's in your bank account.
Well, I am. I'm still doing this. So anyway, the rest of my week is deciding, do I want this 86 Kropatschek? Do I want this Chinese Type 56 SKS? Do I want this 1941 Carcano long rifle? Do I want another 98 Krag Jorgensen, but not a sporterized one? Do I jump on this opportunity to pick up 2 Egyptian Hakim rifles for 10% of the price of one? Because I have to build a rifle out of the parts of these 2, which I am very capable of. I have tools and I'm not afraid to use them. Or
I can answer. Go ahead.
do I buy this polished out 98 Krag full length barreled action and start looking for stock and build myself a legitimate Krag? And I like that idea because I can get a stock for it.
The answer to every one of those questions is yeah, why not?
Yeah, well, and do I pick up a Gewehr 91, which I've always wanted? That's the one that's most expensive right now, but I really want it. It's so nice. I gotta have one. Like, everything that I just named is on my to-do list.
I mean, I'm like, if your bills are paid and you're not going further into debt to do it, why the hell not?
Well, I mean, if I had a Patreon and I started, I don't know, telling people to support my Patreon because I'm going to start my own social media network that never takes off, then I could buy all these guns in one shot, huh? Anyway. Oh, I'm also bidding on 2,000 primers, which is surprisingly cheap right now. Maybe primers are coming back. You know, once upon a time, I'd look at a brick of primers and it'd be like $250. $52?
I hope they're coming back because I'm getting a little sweaty that I've only got like 30,000.
I'm $52 into a brick of 1,000, so it's not.
Ouch, that's still high.
It's better than 250.
Yeah, but it's not as good as the 28 bucks I paid for the last ones I bought.
Oh God, yeah. I do miss that. Like, see,
That was strictly right place, right time.
I usually pay like $36 for a box of 1,000, but I found out during the shortage that Yorkie sells primers in boxes of 1,500, and they're only like $40. So you spend like what, 8% more, but you get 50% more primers. So like that's the day I'm looking forward to. Is, you know, Yorkie imports in their primers again, and I can buy them in bricks of 1,500 because I need a lot.
I exhibited a large bit of short-sightedness when this all started. I could have bought all the freaking 209 shotgun primers, basically. I don't know that I wanted for normal price, which is $30 1,000.
Sure.
And I didn't buy a damn one.
Well, how often do you shoot shotgun rounds, though?
Why I don't, but they're worthy of trading.
Yeah, but they still statistically sell for a lot cheaper than pistol and rifle primers. A lot cheaper. At least down here.
Everything was gone here. You couldn't get shotgun primers or anything.
The only ones that are in my area on the regular still are the primers used for 50 BMG. And I didn't know that they were completely different than any other primer, but apparently they are, and they're quite large. Quite expensive, too.
No, 50 BMG is quite large.
Yeah. But, I mean, if I ever get one, I'm still going to hand load it. I still have to hand load it.
Oh, yeah.
I use large pistol by far more than anything else, and I wish to God I'd have bought more. And that's I'm not remotely close to being out. I've got thousands of them.
I use small rifle the most because, yes, you can load 9mm with small rifle. So that's the one I typically use the most. It's kind of funny because I remember the last time I got some, I went to my local's place called Carter's Country, and I walked in, and the guy just walked out with the last 2 boxes of, this is the little wafer tray of 100. He bought the last 2 of small pistol, and he started to turn around and leave, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for small pistol primers, and the guy behind the counter goes, that guy just got the last 200. So I looked over at him, and I was like, okay, well, do you have any small rifle primers? And the guy looks at me and he goes, yeah, what you loading? I'm like, 9mm. And the dude stopped dead in his tracks, turned around, and looked at me, and he goes, you can load 9mm with small rifle primers? And I'm like, yep, competition shooters do it all the time. And the guy was like, well, I've got 2 bricks. He was like, I don't really have a limit on rifle primers. And I'm like, good. And I said, I'll take both. And the guy looked at me like he just stepped in dog shit. So he walked out with 200 small pistol primers. I walked out with 2,000 small rifle primers. Like a boss. Guaranteed, though, he went every day after asking for them.
Oh, that,
There is a potential if you have a super light spring, mainspring on your gun that rifle primers won't work.
What I was told is the wheel gun is likely to have a possible failure to fire, but almost any striker-fired pistol will crush a rifle primer for 9mm. Now, you cannot use pistol primers in rifle cases because the rifle striker hits so hard that it generally punctures the primer. But you can go from small rifle to small pistol in 9mm almost every time. Almost every time. Your results may vary. I've had 0 failures to fire, and I've probably made about 7,000 rounds with it so far in 2 years.
I've done it too, and I have not had any failures either.
Yep,
I'm
works
just
every time.
saying what I heard.
Now I don't use small rifle Magnum, but you can. It's just you're kind of wasting them.
I actually kind of switched over to large pistol Magnum for everything.
Yeah, I mean it's a little hotter, but I mean, okay. So most people who tell me the difference between the regular and the Magnum primer is if you're going to use the Magnum primer, back off your powder charge by at least half a grain. And I thought, nah, I just won't do it. You know, I haven't needed to yet. I hadn't gotten so desperate for primers that I had to resort to using the small rifle Magnum. Although I did mistakenly grab a wafer and use them in a load of 9mm. But I didn't care because I was shooting it out of my KP9, which has a chamber that's stronger than pretty much every pistol out there. You know, it's a rifle, so chamber's thick as hell. That, and I got the idea from Dead Horse, surprisingly enough, because he was doing what he called proof loads. He was double loading 9mm because he was double loading a plus P 9mm round because he was shooting it out of an AR 9mm carbine, essentially, because the chambers are thicker. And he was like, dude, you can get those rounds doing almost 3,000 feet a second. And I was like, dude, I can do that with Liberty Civil Defense rounds. And he says, yeah, but you can do it with a 147 grain bullet. And I thought, huh. That's one thing I really wish I could buy on the regular. I don't know who makes them. I've never took the time to look it up, but I like Liberty Civil Defense ammo. It's a nickel-plated brass. Uses I think it's a CCI primer, and they use these very light aluminum or zinc bullets. So, for instance, like the 9mm does, the 10mm does 2,800 feet a second. And I'm just like, yes. And I just really wish they would sell the projectiles so I can make my own, because, you know, they're expensive defensive rounds. I think I paid like $40 for a box just so I could have it. And I loaded my my 2011, 10mm 2011 with those. But it was like one box filled one magazine and I only had 3 rounds left. I'm like, damn.
You know, I wonder why you couldn't, if you had bullet molds that were steel,
Yeah.
why you couldn't cast aluminum bullets in them.
You can't?
I've never heard of anybody trying it.
Well, let's see. Casting aluminum bullets.
Jesus, is this starting to turn into Travis P11 chat?
No. Because who do you
Because it
think?
always seems to go to reloading.
Well, who do you think taught him that? Um, let's see. I'm just
The
curious.
guys from the Reloaders Network.
Part of it. Can you cast aluminum in a steel mold? For permanent mold casting, eutectic alloys usually make ideal casting alloys. Today, gravity-fed permanent metal molds can produce near net-shaped parts from a variety of aluminum alloys. I guess the answer is yes, you can.
There you go.
It's worth a shot. I know somebody who makes zinc bullets. I guess the advantage to that is if you shoot something that's made out of steel, it'll never rust.
Zinc ain't that much lighter than lead, though.
Nah. I think its gravity is like what, 70% of lead? It's a lot lighter. It's a lot harder too, actually. Anyway. We've hit the 2-hour mark, so I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to start playing... Let's see, should I? Yeah. Maybe. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. Are we done? Maybe it's time for me to start playing this. Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank you all for watching, and even though he doesn't show up anymore because he has new friends now, for whatever reason, you can catch Rick's Life as I See It later today. But yeah, if you're a viewer here, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week. If you know somebody who doesn't know about the channel or my server, maybe let them know. If you want to join the show or the server, hit me up at the email in the description below, and I'll send you an invite. So thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you, well, if you're part of the lobby, Monday. Otherwise, next Saturday.
Good day, people.